Welcome back. You're watching Talk with Audrey. When your college kids return home this holiday season, spending time with friends and family is probably highest on their to-do list. But parents should be sure to add one more visit to their calendar, and that's a wellness visit with their doctor to ensure that they're up to date on vaccinations, including meningitis vaccination. My guests are Tiffany Williams, a GSK spokesperson and meningitis advocate. She lost her brother Nico to meningitis. And Dr. Len Friedland, Vice President, Director of Scientific Affairs and Public Health Vaccines North America at GSK. Welcome.
Hi, good to be here.
Dr. Friedland, what is meningococcal meningitis and what are the symptoms?
So meningococcal meningitis is a uncommon and potentially life-threatening bacterial illness. It's caused by a bacteria, and this bacteria can cause two types of presentations. One is meningitis, where there's swelling and inflammation of the tissues that surround the brain and the spinal cord. And in that situation, people with meningitis will often start with a severe headache. It can rapidly progress. They can have seizures. Blindness and deafness can be some of the complications, including other neurological problems, and it can also cause death. The other complication is when the bacteria multiplies in your bloodstream and you have blood poisoning, which medically we call sepsis, if you're familiar with that term. And that can cause very serious problems, including death. And for those who survive, they can develop gangrene, and this disease can often result in having amputations. 1 in 10 people who have this illness will die, sometimes within 24 hours of getting sick. And those who are lucky enough to survive, 1 in 5 will be left with lifelong debilitating complications. So this is a bacterial illness. It tends to strike our adolescents, young adults, and we can talk about why. And that's where the vaccines are available to protect this disease in adolescents and young adults.
Who's most at risk for getting the disease?
So this bacteria it resides in the human body, in our noses and in our throats. For reasons we don't particularly understand, this bacteria is more common in our bodies, living in our nose and throats, in our adolescents and in our young adults. In fact, up to 10%, 1 in 10 adolescent young adults will have it in their nose and in their throat. Asymptomatic, not causing any problems. But things that are in our nose and throat are going to get spread from saliva, from secretions, from coughing. Adolescents and young adults who are carrying it tend to be in close quarters, at clubs, at concerts, in the school cafeteria, in their church, at football games. And they share things. They're sharing cups. They're sharing utensils. Kissing, of course, as well, is a way to share saliva. Unfortunately, today, people are sharing cigarettes and vaping, which they shouldn't be doing. But, of course, that's another way to share. And that's how this bacteria gets passed around. And occasionally, there's a strain of the bacteria that can cause serious problems. And if it gets into the nose and the throat of a susceptible host, somebody who might be at risk for reasons we don't understand, they can get very, very sick and come down with this illness.
What can people do to help protect themselves?
So I'll start with that, and then we can hear from Tiffany and her story. So what young people can do is that they can speak to their doctor and ask, am I up to date on the 2 different types of vaccines that can help provide protection against this type of bacterial meningitis that tends to be more common in our adolescents, young adults, and the 2 different types of vaccines are recommended for adolescents, young adults. And this disease can come on very, very fast, and you'll hear that through Tiffany's story. So we have a website where you can learn more at meningitisb.com, MENINGITSB as in boy.com, to learn about the 2 different vaccines. One protects against 4 of the groups that are called A, C, W, and Y. The other vaccine protects against B as in boy, and it's serogroup B that's caused all the college outbreaks that have occurred since 2011. meningitisb.com to learn more. Speak to your doctor. Make sure you're up to date on all the vaccines to protect against this type of meningitis.
Tiffany, I understand you lost your brother Nico to meningitis.
You're right. My younger brother, Nicholas Williams, was a college student in A&M, and he was living his best life. He was going to parties, going to classes, just doing everything that college kids do. And one day he was suffering from a headache. He went into a clinic and they said that he had flu-like symptoms, so he would need to go home and sleep it off. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to just sleep it off. Hours later, he was in the hospital, where he was soon brain dead and eventually died from meningitis. So meningitis is deadly. It can be deadly. It can strike fast. So it's so important for you to keep your family safe, to keep you safe, especially this holiday season. Speak with your doctor. Learn more, like we said, on meningitisb.com. Like I said, it can move quickly and it can be deadly. So it's important that you know how to help protect yourselves.
And how has your life changed since losing your brother?
I'm advocating, I'm educating. I helped change the law in Texas to protect more people. But that's why this is so important. It's so important. I learned the hard way about meningitis. I learned how quick it can move and how devastating it can be. And I don't want other people to learn the way that I did. The holidays are an amazing, fun time for families to get together. It's a great time for traditions. And unfortunately, because I lost my brother to meningitis, it's just a reminder that he's not here, that I've lost someone. So it's so important that we all take the time to learn more and to help protect ourselves. Vaccinations can help do that.
What do you want parents of teens and young adults to know about meningitis?
Yeah, the way this bacterial disease starts, what we call the way you present, is that when you first start feeling sick, we're talking the first few hours, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours, you tend to just have maybe a headache, some nausea, maybe a little vomiting, some tiredness. And if it's in the middle of flu season, you'll think you have something like a mild case of the flu. If it's during the summer, you may think you have whatever viruses may be running through, your community. Or maybe you just think you're overtired and you just need to rest because you're, exhausted, maybe because you've been studying so hard and at college and you're just behind on your sleep. So it's very non-specific, and we often call that flu-like because we don't know really what that means, right? It's just, I don't feel good. I must have something like a mild case of the flu. But the difference here is that this disease progresses very quickly. The average time in some studies for adolescents and young adults to see their doctor when they have bacterial meningitis is 19 hours from the time they started feeling sick. And when that 19-hour period comes, as in the case of Nicholas, when he went back because his headache was getting worse, that's when people are very, very sick. They're admitted to the intensive care unit and they're fighting for their lives. And that's why we don't want to wait for this disease to happen and then treat it. We want to prevent it. And vaccination is our best tool to help provide protection against this disease. And we do this with two different types of vaccines, one for what we call ACW and Y, and the other for type B. And one last thing to say, that the holiday season is a time where we tend to, things slow down, there's time to catch up, and we often have to-do lists of things we're gonna, take care of when, school is out and maybe work is down for a couple of days. So add this to the list, add this to the to-do list. Let's check that our children, our teenagers, and our college-age children, are they up to date on all of the 2 different types of vaccines that can help provide protection against this type of bacterial meningitis? And if they are, fantastic. And if they're not, then go in, schedule a visit, and get your child fully vaccinated against both types, the ACWY and the B vaccines. And you can find more information at meningitisb.com, MENINGITSB as in boy.com.
Thank you, Dr. Friedland and Tiffany, for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Thank you.